Wow, is this exciting or what? You know, I never did any kind of a presentation until we were like 200K, so you don't have to do this in the beginning. I always start my presentation off with a confession. If you've never been to my presentations, I always like to confess before we get started that this person you see in front of you isn't the real me. This is like somebody that just comes out for shows, you know what I mean? You know, so the real me looks more like that. Actually, that's what I look like every day. You know, I got the slippers here. Now in Washington, you know how chilly it is in Washington and it rains a lot, so I wear those about 330 days out of the year. And I got my jogging pants. One sign of success is now my jogging pants are $50 instead of $10, you know. So we're really upgrading. Long sleeve t-shirt, got my headset, out on the back deck. That's the real me. In fact, I had a guy come up to me yesterday and says, "Art, do you really wear those slippers all the time?" Yeah, I do. The inner and the outer. There's another picture. I actually was talking to one of my 100K premiers on the phone when this picture was snapped after one of our conference calls, and we built a Japanese garden on the other side. We still live in the same house. You know, it's a 1,500 square foot house that we had custom built for us, and we don't really see any reason to build anything bigger, but we've done a lot of things outside. And if at all possible, when I get on the phone with somebody, I like to get totally present with them. When I'm talking on the phone, I get away from my computer, and if possible, I walk outside in those slippers and I sit out in nature and communicate with people where I can absolutely focus on exactly what it is that they are saying and connect. But let's a little bit of our story. June 2003, we woke up one morning, and the company we were with, which we'd only been with about 8 months, nobody answered the phone on a Monday morning. Oh, has that happened to some people in here? How many people have ever woken up and, you know, oh, yeah, he was in the same deal, right? And you know, it was a shock, wasn't it? And, you know, in fact, you know, what I like to say is that, you know, I had the financial rug. We had the financial. By the way, Terry's back here in the back of the room. I'd like to acknowledge Terry. It's actually, she's the one that started this business. Honestly. But in June of 2003, we had the financial rug pulled out from underneath our feet. Nobody was answering the phones, and what I like to say is it wasn't a very solid rug yet. We had just started to make some money, and we've been through a long period of just staying off the freeways, you know, looking for the right company at the right time, and you know, sometimes you just have to take what's in front of you rather than what you necessarily want. And then in July, out of the blue, we got a 13-page fax from somebody that we didn't know, and they were all talking about this Zango thing. In fact, I didn't even know how to pronounce it. Did you first? Was that you? Oh, okay. Here's the lady that sent me the fax. She's in the audience. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You've touched my life. The point is that I was an internet guy, you know? I live in the country. I love the internet. And the first thing I'm going to do when I get information from people is go online and do some research and look and see, you know, internet, website, this kind of stuff. So, you know, she didn't have that, and I was looking for that. And so I went online and I found the mymangosteen.com site and system, and really that's what got me in the business. Terry and I'll never forget the day we sat down on a Saturday night in front of the computer and we watched Joe's Story. And she said, "Wow, this is it. Let's go. Now how many men in here are married? How many would like to stay married? How many are willing to take some advice?" Oh, that's much better than up in Canada. There wasn't many that wanted advice up there. But this is my advice to you. When your wife says or does something that is completely out of the box, you better pay attention. Amen. Yeah. You better pay attention, because she might know something that you don't. And there's only 2 times in the 20 plus years we were working from home, there's only 2 times. Are you guys getting a little echo here? Because I'm getting a little echo, whoever's in charge of the sound. Only 2 times did she actually say, "Hey, let's do that." And this was one of those times. And I turned around and I looked at her and I says, "Wow. What? I'm usually the one out there looking, and then I come to her and say, what do you think, honey? And she says, yeah, let's do it. She's always supportive. This one was like her idea. Saw Joe's story, get me some of that juice, That's all she wanted was some of that juice. Oh, I gotta go kick all the tires. I gotta think this over. I'm gonna talk to Dwayne Dyer and the founders, and, I'm gonna really find out that this is the right thing, Meanwhile, she said, get me some of that juice. So we finally got involved around the end of July and got off to what we thought was a slow start. Hit Premier in 6 months, and I guess the rest is kind of history. So let's create the Premier mindset. Okay? Let's create it. We can do it right now today. I'm going to give you some ideas that can help launch you in a different way of thinking. And I'm actually going to step out of my comfort zone, and I'm going to talk to you about some things that I've never talked on any of our webinars or conference calls before. You ready? Yes. Ready? Okay. Now, there's two parts to our business. There's the inner and there's the outer. The inner is the thoughts. It has to do with your dreams, has to do with your goals, has to do with your intention. Has to do with what you're really thinking inside, right? That's the inner part of the game. And the outer is the action steps. You've got to have both, right? I like the book, Becoming a Category of One. You know what he says in there? Dreams without execution are like hallucinations. Or pipe dreams, aren't they? Right? However, I have people that come up to me and say, Art, I'm doing all of the right things. I'm handing out flyers. I'm talking to people. And I'm doing, and nobody wants to sign up. Why would that be? Because something's wrong on the inside. And in fact, they might be doing Zengo just to get rid of the inside. And one of the most rewarding things about network marketing is how people grow in the process. I've had people in our very first network that learned so much about themselves in network marketing, it changed their whole business career even though they left the industry. So some of this has to do with growing and changing, doesn't it? So we're going to work right now on the outer. I got to lay down some fundamental principles, which I like to do. I would call this more outer, yet they're principles that have mindset attached to them. And we're going to get interactive here, okay? I have this thing, I call it Becoming a Premier. I have a lot of strange ideas that come to me in the middle of the night. What's so funny about that? Do you have those too? Oh, okay. And if I want to figure out if they're any good or not, I test them out on Terry, But I decided that what people were doing was they were in a becoming process. Becoming is a powerful term. It's an unfolding, isn't it? Becoming is a process that you're going through to realize who it is you are. So the question has to start right here, and I'm going to put it out to everybody that's in the room here. How many people in this room here today have decided to become a Premier in Zengo? Yeah? Wow, you guys are on, right? So you guys have decided, you probably decided that before you got here. That's good news, because everything in life starts with a decision, doesn't it? Everything. One of the reasons I think we were successful is we didn't have any other choices out there. You can't go get a job, after 20 years of working from home. I've often threatened that. Let me go work at an espresso stand or something, Oh, you don't get up early enough for that, Art. So, I don't use an alarm clock, except when I'm in Salt Lake. But so you have to make that decision, don't you? And so we had to make that decision right there. We didn't have a lot of choices. And that's why you hear a lot of rags to riches stories in the industry. Is because people that are really have their backs up against the wall are the ones that not only make the decision, but have the will. See, I don't think that there's a shortage of how to build this business. There's lots of ways to build this business. There is not one way to build this business. There's probably as many ways as there are people in this room. What I believe there's a lack of is the will to do what it takes. The will. So, if you've decided, that is cool, right? Sitting in your chair here, just come out of the first session. What an incredible company, isn't it? Isn't that amazing? The kind of founders that we have, this remarkable product. We've got all the bases covered, right? We have all the same product. We have all the same founders. We all work with the same compensation plan, don't we? It's a level playing field. There's nobody that comes in here that says, no, you can't do this because you don't have some kind of education or something, is there? The key is that decision that you make today has to be made every single day. It has to be a daily decision when you get up in the morning. You can't sit, it's a pipe dream If you sit here today and say, I'm going to become a premier, and then you leave here, and on Monday, you stop thinking about Zango, you don't get into action, start doing something, right? So if once you've decided, that decision has to be made every day. Now, and here's one of my favorite quotes. A lot of you people, actually there's a big controversy about who actually it is that wrote this. But let's look at this, because to me, this is the key to the whole thing. If you actually would make a decision. There's a lot of people that come in to our industry, I think, and try it out. Oh, let me give that a try. I'll give that 30 days or 90 days. Imagine if you decided that you wanted to become really good at anything. Think about how much effort and time and energy can get to be a really good tennis player, or a baseball player, or really good at talking in front of people. You know what I'm saying? Nothing is going to happen instantly, right? So, look at this. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back. And I love this, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. It's like when you make a commitment, there's like an energy that's behind you. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. Whatever you can do or dream, you can do. Whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Actually, if you can believe in your dream, you can do it. That's the key. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now. That's a great quote. So, if you've said to yourself, I've decided to become a premier, don't you think that the first question you should be asking yourself is, well, what do those guys do? What do those 100Ks do? What do those 200Ks do? And don't you think that you should try to figure that out? So let's find out what they do. What do premiers do? Who's got some ideas? What do premiers do? They what? They talk to people. Now, I want you to get involved here. When you hear an idea that makes sense to you, I want you to write it down. Okay? And we're going to make a list here, because I want you to go home with something that makes sense to you. And there's going to be a little process I'm going to go through here to really cement this in place. So they talk to people, don't they? Do they do it once a week? Probably every day they do talk to people, don't they? What else do premiers do? They keep it simple. You know, they're not bringing out a new tool every week, right? They cover the basics. What else do? They support their downline. They don't just sign people up and forget them, right? You know, when we started doing this business, and this is for a whole other topic, you know, we're doing a breakout on Sunday where we get into more of the basics, but Terry started calling every member in our downline as they were coming in, got up to $800 people a month calling every single one of them. Now, Christy here has jumped in and is doing the same for her team. You know, there's people that sign people up and never call them again. Some of these people haven't even opened up their juice. Right? What else do premiers do? They do three-way calls. Don't you think premiers do three-way calls? Probably not every premier does. I think it's the most underutilized thing that we do. What else do? They do meetings. I think premiers probably do meetings. Maybe, you know, I never did a meeting until long after I was a premier, right? But my meeting was on the phone on a conference line. I started doing conference calls when we were 1Ks. That was my kind of niche. So meetings, yes. What else? They certainly attend meetings, don't they, if they're not doing them themselves yet. What else do? They have goals. What else? They follow up. Yes. What else? They're always growing, right? Working on themselves. Yes. What else? They promote their business. Come on, there's some other things that premiers do. They drink the juice. They take the juice. Yeah, they're in love with the juice. Don't you think? This is not a money game, guys. I hope you notice that Zango's about caring about other people, right? What else do? They teach people. You know, they're teachers. They teach them how to duplicate themselves. What else? What's that? Yeah, they probably work with their upline. What else do? Stay consistent. Leadership. Are we missing something? I think a couple things. Constantly recruiting. All right. Let's make a list. That's my funny guy. When you see that guy, it means you're supposed to write. Here's some of the things that I've got on here. And if you see ones that I've got that you haven't got yet, add these to your list. And then I'm going to go through a little process that will cement this. I think they take responsibility for their business. Your upline does not build your business. And I got really bad news. Neither does your downline. Because you can't count on all your downline to do what you think they should do. Right? You've got to do it. And you've got to be the leader that you want others to follow. I'm going to talk about more of that later. Hey, we got the consistent. You know, my friend that I knew well before Zango, John Shaw, he's a premier, lives on the other side of the hill. He's one of our warm market people, him and Laurel. He said to me, Art, the reason you're success is you're focused. I can't focus like that. He says, that's why you're so successful. Focus. Every day there's something going on in my mind about my dream and my goal. They talk to people, we got that. What about invest? Nobody mentioned that. They invest. You invested to come here. You know about investing in your business. It's $1 million business. Why not invest in it, right? We got the three-way calls. Attend and create their own conference calls. Don't you think so? How many people do their own conference calls in here? How many people have done one? Hey, you can have a conference call anytime. FreeAudioconferencing.com, freeconferencecall.com. You can have 2 people on it, or 5 or 10. We started with just a half a dozen people. They follow up. They only work one program. You know, they're not jumping into the next thing that comes down the pike, because I can tell you it takes a tremendous amount of focus to do one program. And I've never yet seen anybody in my career build 2 businesses at once in network marketing. Invariably what happens is they build one and go into retirement on the other and collect a check. That happens, yes. But to build 2 at once, impossible for most people. So they only work one program. They keep committed and they keep focused. And they attend convention and regionals. Let's look at your list, okay? I want you to go down your list and I want you to ask yourself, I want you to put a check mark next to the things that you're already doing. And I want you to circle the ones that you think you could start doing. Because if you don't start doing the things that premiers do, you can't wait until you become a premier to start acting like one, right? So look at that list, and that's something you can look at later, and circle some things that you can do in the next couple of weeks when you leave here. You are here. You've passed the big test. You are all leaders in this room. Did you know that? Do you know you're leaders? Give yourself a hand. You guys are leaders. You are here. See, I'll tell you what. I think you have what it takes. I think if you're here, there's a reason for it that may be greater than you even understand. That if you're here, that you're meant to help people. It could be part of your life's work. It could be your mission. You know, like there's a reason that you're in this room today. It's not by chance that you're here. And I think if you're in this room, then you have what it takes. If you've made the investment, you've made the commitment, you've got this far. So you can do it. I know you can all do it. I don't know how long it's going to take though, because you might have some growing to do in the process. As I did, and still do. So this is key right here. You've got to be the leader that you want others to follow. Your downline are kind of like children. I got this maybe on some other slide. I might come up with this later. They actually do more as you do than what you tell them to do. So, let's think about it. If you've decided to become a premier, you've got to start leading the pack, don't you? Haven't you got to start doing the things that you expect them to do? That you want them to do? Because every choice that you make tends to duplicate. We have conference calls, right? Some of our leaders on our team don't support our own conference calls. They don't get on the conference calls themselves. And you know what I find? Their downline tends to follow them. Some people don't buy tools, and their downline tend not to buy tools. Some people don't go to events, and their downline tend not to go to events. Always will be exceptions, you see? So if every choice tends to duplicate in your downline, then you've got to be really careful what it is that you're doing, right? And what it is that you're saying. I mean, it all starts with you. Now, let's get into it. Everything starts with a dream. How many people agree with that statement? Do you know that the chairs you're sitting on was somebody's dream? This hotel, this building here, the Salt Palace, I wonder who dreamed this one up. That's a pretty big dream, wasn't it? Your clothing. Look at these beautiful Zango clothing here. Is that Sandy Cohen stuff? She had a dream, right? And these people are wearing her dream over here. Everything starts with a dream. And so this was Terry's dream. I thought I had your picture up there someplace. But there's her dream. You know, when we got involved in this business, she hadn't had a car for 22 years. We had one car, and she thought it might be nice to have her own car. Can you imagine that? Not having your own car for 22 years. And she wanted to go to Thailand. Right? Whoops. That's the dream. She wanted to go to Thailand, and she wanted that car. She wanted one of those little RAV4s that she could haul plants around to put them in the ground of her backyard. Right? That was her dream. But remember what I said? Dreams without action are like hallucinations. So she asked herself, okay, we've got to make this work, Art. Besides, it was her idea anyway, right? What can I do? I'm tired of being the mail lady. I don't want to just sit back and do nothing here. I'm tired of, picking up your pieces. I want to do something. What do you think I can do? I said, well, why don't you start doing some follow-up? You can start calling all the new members. And I mentioned that to you already. That's what she started doing. She was scared and she was nervous. She's used to hearing me yak. She'd go into the other room and she'd start calling people. And the phone was heavy in the beginning, but she got really good at it. Just calling people to say hello. Did you get your juice yet? Are you shaking up the bottle? Do you have any questions? Leaving messages on voicemail. That was her action step, right? And she got her car. You know what was really funny about this is that the engine went out in the car that I had, and we were like paying off bills, We were already making more money than we thought we were going to when we started. That's kind of cool, right? Your dreams sometimes turn out bigger than what you even thought. For some of you guys that are dreaming about $500 a month, you're going to change those dreams and start thinking $5,000 a month, right? Because you can see that it's possible. But we went out test driving different cars, and we had money, but we didn't want to go back into debt. We just had so much debt. We had credit card debts that were so big when we got started that we couldn't even pay them off if we refinanced our house. I didn't even want to know how much was on those cards. I didn't want to total it up. It's like those ignorance is bliss things, you know what I mean? And so I didn't want to get into debt. So we were looking to pay cash. I'll tell you, it's a different decision when you think about paying cash for a car than just a loan. You think about it a little stronger. We went out looking at these, Infinities and all that kind of stuff, and it was like that was her dream. It was on her computer. That's the one that she had to have. And we went to Thailand. So we realized our first dream, and it was all based on her dream. And we're going to get into that. And then dreams sometimes change. We just upgraded paid cash for a new RAV for her, too. And she also had a dream about having one of our friends whose husband passed a few years ago that had never been back to our area. We flew them down, and we had a party for her, and had all of her friends over up on one of our, this is deck number 5. We got all kinds of decks. This is our waterfall down in here. And this is at that day of that party where we had dreams that we didn't even think about being able to help a neighbor out, an old friend, and fly her down. And she spent 10 days with us, and we took her out. So there's lots of dreams. So who in here has a dream? Who has a dream? Let's have them. Come on. Who's got a dream? He wants to play the top 100 golf courses in the world. When you think of a dream that you like, write it down. What else? Huh? A lake home? What else? RV your life away. What else? Travel the world? Come on, we can do better than this. Come on. Okay, Corvettes over here. What else? Quit your job? Stay-at-home dad. I love that one. Stay-at-home dad. Yeah, I had that at one time. Animal shelter over here. Wow. Isn't that cool? Look at all these dreams. Isn't it exciting? That's your dream. Write your dream down. Write it down. Even what you just said right now, one sentence is a spark that you can write down. I have a dream home. So we're going to go through some pretty intense stuff here on creating this premier mindset. And some of this you're going to want to do after you leave here, right? This is the beginning of it, isn't it? What is your why? What is your dream? You've got to have a reason, right? You've got to have a desire. You're going to run into roadblocks. What is going to keep you going? Your dream is what keeps you going. You know, if you quit Zango, you know, you're going to probably quit dreaming too. Everything is possible in this company. So what is your why? What is your dream? Everything starts with a dream. We've talked about that. Now here is what gets key. This is some pretty heady stuff in here. Let's check this one out. Energy follows thought when held in focus by sustained attention. Where do you want the energy to flow? To the problem or to the solution? In other words, what you focus on expands, doesn't it? So you have to be careful where your thoughts are going. Is this a glass half empty or is this a glass half full? Half full? Who says half empty? Who says half full? All right, it's a half full glass. You know what? Do you think 500Ks still have challenges with their downline? Maybe more than you do, right? I couldn't sleep one night a couple of weeks ago. This is when some of my best ideas come. And I was thinking about the people in my downline that weren't doing what I would like them to do. Anybody got people like that? I also thought about the people that had quit, that had given up. It's pretty depressing. You know, people are going to drop out of your business. Some of them will come back though. Lots of them are coming back, right? And I get these ideas in my head, and this is how it went. I don't know how else to describe it. It said, if you keep focusing on the people that aren't doing what you're doing and are dropping out or quitting or not reordering their juice, you're going to get more of it. Why don't you start focusing on the people that are doing something? And why don't you get into action calling those people? And I got up in the next morning, Terry and I like to sit out on the deck with a glass of wine and a piece of paper, and all kinds of things flow. And we said, you know what? We got to start doing the things that we want others to do. And we made a list of people, and we brainstormed our downline, and we started calling people and talking to people that we hadn't kept in good contact with. And you know what? The energy shifted just like that. Because we started focusing on the glass half full. So is your downline half empty? Or is it half full? Focus on what you want and it will expand. Now, the wish fulfilled. What the heck are we talking about? She knows? She knows the wish fulfilled. You must take your vision and turn it into a wish fulfilled as if it has already happened. And here's the guy that I think writes about this the best. His name is Neville. And he says, when you know what you want, you must deliberately focus your attention on the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It has to have already happened in your mind. If you just dream out there as a future reality, you can actually manifest the lack of the dream rather than the completion of it. So what we've got to do is we've got to see this complete until that feeling fills the mind and crowds out all other ideas. So, Lance and Janine, are you here? They were peeking around. Over here. Lance and Janine Schiffman. We went to our first Zango convention in 2003 as 5Ks. We sat at the back of the room. It's not as much fun at the back as the front. You want to work your way forward, right? And it's not as much fun when you see all of these people going up and get recognized and none of them are in your downline, right? When you're a 5K, you've only got 3 1Ks, right? So it wasn't really exciting to watch all the recognition. I think at that time, everybody went across the stage, it seemed like, except for maybe the 1Ks. And something about Lance and Janine, you know, their story up there. They were already 200Ks, and Terry and I were sitting in the back looking at them up on the stage. And at some point during that first convention, we turned to each other and we said, next year, that is going to be us. We're going to be up on that stage, right? So that was a wonderful idea, wasn't it? Except it didn't end there. Do you know? Every day almost, every day we saw ourselves standing up on that stage as 200K premieres. We saw ourselves going up as 200K premieres. Do you know that I'm dreaming right now of a brand new 200K premiere that I'm going to bring into my world? That is my next dream, and I even know what he looks like and the fact that he's married to an Asian lady. I am visualizing myself at the bottom of the stage taking pictures and having him come down, and I am in there with his team. They're so excited and we're so happy for each other. You know? I mean, wow, isn't that exciting? And that's what you have to do. And you can't just do it once, right? You're laying out this pathway. And the more you do it, the more the energy flows in your direction. Now, the next thing to do is to take that dream of yours and put some kind of a symbol on it. Okay? Symbols have special kinds of energy, if you will. And once you have a symbol for something, then it kind of goes directly into the subconscious mind. And so, what was this all about? See, this was her dream. That was the car, a picture of the car, and a picture of Thailand. That was the symbol of the dream. And we have other ones. But this is the one that was on the computer that she looked at every single day, right? Do you know that I have a symbol for this event, Zango Invasion, that I cut out the picture of the Zango logo and I put it on a card and I wrote down all the things that I wanted to see happening from this event? I didn't go into this event expecting it just to happen without putting any intention into it. You see the difference here? You know, we're going to start to create an energy that flows. And so you've got to create your intention every single day. Every day. You know, another word came to me recently. Let me see if this helps you. It's pretty hard for people to grasp the idea that they create their day, or that they can even create their day, right? And in one of my sleepless nights here at convention, it's really hard to sleep at convention for some reason. Anybody have that problem? This might be a better term for you. You're going to start to influence your day. You can have influence over the day. I don't talk to people until I have done something to create my intention for that day. I don't get on the phone unconsciously. You know, I have a whole procedure that I go through in the morning to get myself ready for that day. You know, whatever it is for you, it could be different for everybody here. For me, I'm visualizing on some kind of a future outcome, aren't I? You know, and I'm doing it with my eyes closed. And I'm doing it in a quiet place, sometimes with some music, you know? And then I'm not actually necessarily trying to get an apple to fall out of the tree. I'm looking to create an energy for that day. Maybe somebody in here wants a new business builder. Why wouldn't you be praying for that every morning, that this incredible business builder will come into your life? I got news for you. You will tend to find what you're looking for. So why not decide what it is you really want and then attract that into your life? How many people in here have lots of product users? How many people in here have lots of business builders? You notice the difference? It's because you're looking for product users. And there's nothing wrong with that. But why not look for some business builders too? Why not have that as an intention? Right? Because if you set that intention for that day, suddenly you'll get on the phone with somebody and the business will naturally come up. Rarely do I ever talk to people without going through my own morning process. And I can tell you, the best way I could describe it, it's kind of like the day is herky, jerky, the conversations don't have the same energy into them, and it's difficult rather than flowing. And so you can get the energy and flowing, but you've got to do something each day. Look at this, and this is so powerful. Either you do something, and let's call it to influence your day, or you react to your day and let it influence you. Right? So you can set that intention, that forward motion. Does that make sense? So you've created your intention that day, and then suddenly you get an idea. Somebody's name might pop into your head. Act on that. Right? Or you might bump into somebody at the supermarket. If you've decided that you're going to talk to somebody about Zango today, when the door opens, walk in, right? When you think of somebody that you haven't thought of in a long period of time and start meandering about whether they'd be interested in this juice or not, Act on your promptings. If you have an intention and someone pops into your mind, call them. And you know what you'll find sometimes? I've had this happen. Hey, John, actually they will call you sometimes. Does that ever happen to anybody in here? You start thinking about people, they will call you. That's cool. But often when you call them, they'll say, because I like to open this kind of a line when I call people. They'll say, listen, I've been thinking about you for the last couple of days. And they'll quite often say, yeah, I've been thinking about you too. I had this happen just last month. Okay, what about this though? Right? We're going along really nice here, right? We got our symbol. Man, we're going to become a premier. We're going to start doing conference calls, right? We know this Zango thing really works, don't we? I mean, the company's got a track record. We've seen people that have never been successful in anything become successful, haven't we? We know the juice is phenomenal. There's like 9,000 or 10,000 people at the convention. We know Zango works. We got all of these tools, right? And we're going along grooving and we're going to become a premier. And then the pitfall. What the heck is that? I'll tell you what it is. The pitfall. Zango works. This is Terry's father. He came to visit us in our what our friend calls our enchanted forest. That's what she calls our property that we live in out there. He came to visit us. And this is the only time he came to our house. We've been there for 10 years. And he came to visit, and it's the only time he will come to our house because he's no longer on the planet. And it was really hard for him. He hadn't flown in like 20 years. And we flew him down. And we were going along, having many conversations. And he started explaining to me that about this experience that he had a month or two ago. He was watching television. And on the TV there was a lady who was in some kind of a canoe going across this river in a canoe. And suddenly, without any warning, the canoe capsized and she drowned. And he was explaining this. And he says, so I've decided never to get in a boat again. I thought, wow. I mean, he didn't even know this person, right? I mean, it wasn't like it was his sister or that he was in the boat, right? He just saw this on TV. And I looked at him and I said, wow, one negative thought can change your whole life. One negative thought can end a marriage. One negative thought can destroy your Zango business. So the pitfall is doubt. That's the big one. The pitfall is doubt. And it just takes one negative thought. We had this lady who was just really doing great in her business as a 5K. And she was signing people up and she was sponsoring people and it wasn't growing as fast as she wanted. Anybody in here have a business like that? Does anybody here have a business that's growing faster than they want? Come on up. No, there wasn't anybody. So we all have this kind of built-in perception, don't we? We all kind of have expectations that are perhaps not based on any kind of reality. What makes you think your business isn't growing just the way that it should already? I mean, why? You're comparing yourself with other people. I'm telling you what. You'll compare yourself with me or somebody else that you know. And you think, oh, wow, they've reached premier in a year and I'm sitting here as a 5K. I must not be doing something right. Or maybe I can't do this. Or the moon is in the wrong corner and I'm just going to quit, right? You know what I'm saying? And it just only takes one experience. Maybe you call up your neighbor and he says, that's a scam. What the heck are you doing in that? You have two choices when that thought comes to you. Positive or negative. You could say, I don't think so. That's not for me. Or, and you've all watched this happening in your minds. I'm telling you, it's like a runaway horses in there sometimes. Haven't you watched one negative thought lead to another, and then they have their friends, their buddies, their emotions are their buddies. You know, fear and doubt pop in there. Gosh, I have it myself. I know what I'm talking about. I had somebody, one of my leaders, give me a negative on one of the strategies that I've been doing in the last few weeks, and he was negative. Anybody have any negative downline? you know what? I watch my mind pick that up at different times of the day and start to work it all over and wondered if he was right or not about it. So you've got to guard the door of your mind if you want to become a premier and watch out for the pitfall. I had a guy up in Canada who was doing fabulous, sponsoring people, and he was going to open up Hong Kong, and he brought in a bunch of people, and he lasted about 39 days. That's it. Suddenly he stopped. And he was deep down in our downline. And I couldn't get a hold of him. He's like, he quit. And do you know that downline went on without him? And this huge leg was created underneath him that went all the way to Hong Kong and Richmond, BC. And it was incredible. It went down. It was like amazing what was going on. And the guy had already quit. And it kept on going. And I sat there and I thought to myself, my gosh, that focus and that commitment and that intention that you had that lasted 30 days. If you just could have held your focus for 1 to 2 years and done that same level of activity, you would have never had to worry about anything the rest of your life. And that's when I first learned about the pitfall. Just because you have a thought, it does not mean that it's true. In fact, most of them aren't. Just because you have a thought, it doesn't mean that it's true. And just because somebody else has an opinion, it doesn't mean that it's true. And you got a whole lot of programs running around in your brain that says what you can do and what you can't do, and all of them are based on the past. All of those past programs, your failures, your rejections. You know what I'm talking about. Man, I can feel the energy in the room. It's like, oh yeah, those programs that are running in your mind. I know it's depressing, isn't it? But when you focus the point of your intention on the programs in your mind, they stop. They will not run if you're paying attention to them. They stop in their tracks. It's like you shine a light on them. And they go, whoop, got caught. But if you're not paying attention to these programs that are running along and these negative thoughts, and if you've fallen into the pitfall, man, you can lose your entire life in 30 days. So be aware of what's going on inside. And you got to hold your focus. I think we're doing pretty good. You got to hold your focus, right? What is holding your focus means? It means that when that negative program comes into your brain, you say, no, I have a dream. I've made a decision on this. Get the heck out of here. Kick it out, right? That's where your will comes in. How about a super duper technique? I've only done this like once or twice before. I know Dave Hansen was here last year. I started this super duper technique, I would call it, right around the time that we got involved in Zengo. I've been studying the mind and consciousness and energy for a long time and how to sort of start to influence our reality, and learn how to create and draw things. I mean, everybody's heard of the law of attraction, right? And The Secret, right? How many people have seen The Secret? Great stuff, right? It's a great branch of the tree. Powerful branch of the tree, the law of attraction. I don't believe that it's necessarily the whole tree, but it's a great doorway to the tree. If you want to go beyond that, how about something like, what the bleep do we know? That is really out there, right? About how we create things in our mind. Anyway, there's this technique that I learned. Because I think a lot of times when we're dreaming, we're doing like affirmations or something, they're always out there, You don't really ever believe them. And this is like a way of entraining your brain to actually get into the fact that this has already happened, man. So we started doing this, And it's just a tremendous amount of power in it. So if you were to say, I'm a premier, doesn't that sound weak when you're not? Or have a dream of a premier. That's out there someplace. How about this? I have always been a premier. I have always been a premier in Zengo. Always. And wouldn't that be a wonderful little technique to do in the morning when you're creating your intention for that day? I have always been a premier. And wouldn't that be a wonderful thing that when John over there gets off auto ship and quits the juice, and instead of getting depressed, I've always been a premier, that you lay some kind of a positive time frame on top of what it is that you're doing. I have always been a premier. You want to try it? Let's try it. I want you to experience how this feels. Because if you leave here without the experience, you might not believe me. So let's try it. I have always been a premier. I've always been a premier in Zango. Doesn't you feel the power in that? That is really powerful. You can apply this to anything in your life. The creating your mindset breakout was always fantastic. It was always incredible. So was the invasion. Like the always thing is another way to flip your brain over into something. And if you actually go through this enough, there'll be a shift where you know it. And then it's just a matter of waiting for time to catch up to your dream. Just letting it unfold in front of you. Well, that's our team training site, becomingapremier.com. We have a newsletter. Doing the 14-day challenge at Sherman's Day After event. It's actually more about the basics of the business. And the idea here is that if you leave here, this convention, and you don't get into action and start doing something in the first 2 weeks from the time you leave this convention, I got bad news for you. It's going to fade out. And you're going to go back to exactly who you were before. You've got about a 2-week window to take this energy and do something with it. Take this belief in what it is that you're doing and do something with it. Just like you heard the founders talking about this morning. You've got to act on this. And what better time to act on this than when you first leave? And for some reason, I see the opposite happening a lot. People they have this incredible experience and they're all excited and they're like that thing all revved up with no place to go. You know, and there's new tools out there and what about this and what about that? And they're like deer in the headlights. They don't know where to begin. So I will tell you this. Just start picking up the phone and talking to people. I could care less what you say or what tool you use. Just start sharing your story and your heart with people. Tell them what your experience was here. And start this within the first 14 days. You can change but if you wait for 2 weeks go by and you don't do anything in those 14 days, this will become a distant memory and nothing is going to shift in your life. You're going to go back into those old programs and start replaying the past all over again. It's like a warning. It's like tough love here, right? David Butler likes to talk about that. So you don't have to come to this, but I encourage you to do something when you leave here within 14 days. We're just about done here. We're doing good. What the heck is that? That's my old truck. We still have this truck. In fact, I took this picture before last year's convention. One of those sleepless nights, I woke up in the middle of the night and I started thinking about my old truck. That's only 11 years ago. That's what we were driving. We paid $600 for that truck and we put over 100,000 miles on it. And you know what? It never broke down until we got home. Never. Would never leave me on the side of the road, that truck. I love that truck. Its beauty was within. Your beauty is within too. But we decided to get back into, I say work from home for 21 years because there was a period of time when we weren't actually networking, but we were still working from home. And we decided to get back into networking. Another one of her ideas. That was the other one. She said, well, I'm going to do this one. I don't care what you do. Boy, that got my attention. I was thinking about this other one, and she says, no, I'm going to do this one. We decided to go to their convention. We had no credit cards. Don't you hate those people when you try to sign them up, they have no credit cards? We had no credit card. We mailed our sponsor a check, and he put it on his card for our first order. And then we were going to go to this convention, and that's what we were driving. We drove all day to get down there. And it was about 9 o'clock at night. We were almost at the source of the convention when we decided we better get off the road and find a place to sleep. We did not have money for a motel. We didn't have $29.95 for a Motel 6 back then. We were going to tent it. Now Zango's got us in this majestic suite. It's like got 2 rooms and it's up on the Monaco there. We like the Monaco. And it's like this huge thing. And 10 years ago, we didn't have money for a motel. So we pull into this campground just before we got into town to have some sleep. We didn't realize it was right across the street from a railway track. All night long. And we get up the next morning, and as Terry's getting out of the tent, she puts her back out. Seriously, like almost a slip disc, where she couldn't even hardly move. And I didn't know what to do. We had a choice. Do we still go to the convention, or do we turn around and drive home? She's tough. She says, we're going. She's like that, we're going. So we went to the convention. We found this chiropractor gave her adjustment on a park bench. Yeah. Love those chiropractors. Any chiropractors in here? You see any sore people, give them a work on a bench. We tented the next two more nights as well, because we didn't have money for a motel. So we know how important events are. Some of you guys may have had similar challenges. Could be people in here that have 6 people in a room or something, right? I knew there was only one person in our downline at that event. But we went. And we started to make some money from that. It got us back in the industry. And we got it up to a few $1,000s a month. It was a good thing. Yeah. Now I have this. I went without a car for 2 years. After she got her RAV, I couldn't figure out what it is that I wanted, right? And so I said, I'm the only 6-figure income earner in network marketing who doesn't even have a car. And so I finally got this Infiniti that actually almost drives itself. I went down to Portland the other day. I went 90 miles without hitting the gas or the brake. It's got this sensor, that you put the speed on for the cruise, and it slows down. If the car slows down, and if he changes lanes, then the car speeds up. So you just kind of drive in like this. It's pretty cool. Yeah. We wrote a check for it too. Now, that's really cool. Lots of people have fancy cars. Few people write checks. Do you think this one's true? Would you like to see a demonstration of this? Let me take you on a little journey. Because, change people's lives. It sounds kind of airy-fairy, doesn't it? Right? Do you know that you have touched people, you have an influence on people here that you have never heard of before? That you don't even know that it's existed? Everybody here has. In fact, even the people that you approach with this juice that said no may have been changed from the experience. You might have opened a crack in their mind that might change their life. And in most things in life, I believe we're all in here to make the world a better place. And I think most people in this room really have that dream and that vision of making the world a better place. But there's few things that you can do in life where you can actually see it witnessed before your eyes. Now, it's one thing to share the juice with somebody and see them get a great result or somebody become a premier. It's another thing to see how that possibility can play out as we go down different generations in our downline. That's our friends John and Laurel Shaw. They're from the other side of the hill. Remember the guy that said he thinks we're successful because we know how to focus? When we first met them, he was doing home care. And he would drive for 3 hours and then do 3 days of 24/7 home care. And then he would drive back. And I just had this idea, maybe he'd like not to do that anymore. And so I thought about what was in it for him. I approached John based on how would you like to stay home? I've got something I think you could do from home and stay off that freeway. Right? And so we got him involved in the business. As soon as I got him interested in the business, we ran over with a bottle of juice. We shared it with them. They got great results on the juice. They decided to do it as a business. One day, the UPS driver rolled up in front of their house. It was a substitute driver, not the normal driver. And John, delivering this juice, right? How many guys have UPS drivers come to their house? Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And what's in this juice? Oh, and he started telling him, it's this and it's that. He says, by the way, do you know anybody that has pain? He says, yeah, my wife. She had this incredible accident a couple of years ago. She has phenomenal pain in her body. He says, here, take a bottle and take some literature and let's see what happens with it. And his wife's name was Robin. And Robin's a realtor in town. And she had tremendous pain. She's also very left-brained. She had to do all of her study and science and research on this. About 2 weeks later, she calls up and orders 2 cases of juice. gets incredible results with the pain in her neck. In phenomenal results. Starts feeling better. Thinks of her friend Barb. Calls up, Barb, listen, you got to get some of this juice. I'm going to get you a bottle of this. I want you to try it out. And if you like it, we'll get you on this stuff. You got to get it wholesale. It's done an incredible job on my neck. Barb has pain in her hand. She starts to feel better. Not only that, she has a father who has cancer, who is terminal, that no longer wants to live any longer. That is so depressed, he doesn't even want to live. And he starts to feel better and gains some feeling of satisfaction. And Barb is like moved. She thinks, this is such an incredible thing. I'm going to start sharing this with a bunch of people, and I'm going to build this into a business. She decides one day that she's going to do some what I call cold marketing. I go into this on Sunday. The cold market is people you don't know. You got to advertise for those people. She got into Andy Willoughby's radio co-op. Really, about the only good lead program I'd ever even suggest getting involved in. And she gets a call from a lady in Kentucky. And this lady was looking for a home business. What Barb didn't know is Linda had a daughter named Megan. And Megan hadn't been to school in a year and a half. She has something like fibromyalgia and a lot of pain in her body. Imagine at the age of 14 having so much pain you couldn't even attend school. And do you remember Terry doing all of that follow-up work? Well, she got on the phone with Megan and we started to tweak how much she should be taking. Is she taking enough or too much? And working out, helping her to the point where that September, which is like 2 years ago, she went to school for the first time in 2 years after being on this juice. Isn't that powerful? Well, anyway, we were going to Detroit, Michigan to do a training up there for Dr. Tutla and some of the other folks up in Michigan, Joel and those folks. And they drove, the family so badly wanted to meet the juice lady over here, that they drove all the way from Kentucky to Michigan, the whole family, to meet us. And to just say hello and thank you for changing lives. Isn't that an amazing story? Now, look at all the decisions that were made here for this to happen. We decided, to act on that fax that we got and turn this into a business. And we shared it with our friends, who shared it with the UPS driver, who got it for his wife, who talked to Barb to help Megan, whose mom was looking for a business on the other side of the country. Yeah, lives change in this. You guys have all done this, and you don't even know about it. Think how many times that's happening in Zango. Lives being changed because of the decision that you make, you see? It all starts with your decision. Remember we began with that? Have you really decided? You see, what if any one of these persons here had not made the decision? That whole sequence of events would have been ended. That's why when you think about somebody in connection with this product and juice, act on it. Do you know they might be praying for something and it comes into your head and you don't pick up the phone and call them and they could be just asking for something to come into their life like this, product or business? If you think about them, act on it. And to close off, I'm just going to show this thing here. Man, we did this pretty good, didn't we? I did this in Louisville. That's what's got the regional there. This is Gandhi's quote. Can you read it back there? What does it say? Read it to me. How many people want the world to change? Don't you think we can make this a better place? Don't you think so? I will tell you something. I read this book about you must be the change you wish to see in the world. You must be it. If you want to change in the world, you've got to be it, right? How many people here would like a more loving world? Well, then you've got to be more loving. You can't wait for it out someplace else. How many people would like a more abundant world? Well, let's be more abundant, right? You can't say you want a more loving world and then get angry at people on the freeway. Right? Oh, I want a more loving world. I hate that war in Iraq, and some guy cuts you off and you're ready to pull out a shotgun or something. You know what I'm saying? You see? Bless him on his journey. Right? Bless him. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for giving me a chance to respond in kindness. instead of anger.